Hello guys, welcome to Acoustic Paradiso. I'm Pete.
And I'm the captain.
Yes, today I've got a new co-host for the day.
Yeah,
The
we
captain
couldn't afford
himself.
Mick anymore.
No,
we got the cheap one in.
Exactly. Oh, he was probably doing something else. Yeah. Lee doesn't. He just comes over and has a jam and hangs out a little bit, have a coffee. It's great.
I needed to get some of my inner Mark King out.
But then you're playing a bass though. What is this all about?
So I've resigned from my presentership on All About the Bass.
And directly into playing a bass anyway.
I've never been on Acoustic Paradiso before and thought, I know, I'll play the bass on Acoustic Paradiso.
I'll play an acoustic bass. And that's a cool bass. We saw these at NAMM, didn't we? So these are the new Taylor guitars. So we got the Academy series, we got the 10E, and then we got the little mini GS mini bass, which is I was blown away about that one. You know how much I like that one.
Should we talk about Academy? Because this is Academy series is separate, so these aren't part of the same series.
Exactly.
It's just coincidence they've been launched at the same time. So
Exactly.
should we talk about Academy series?
Let's do that. And I'm wearing my glasses today, so I look a bit more intelligent. So I look like I know what I'm talking about.
And there's no actual glasses in them.
It just
adds IQ on the bit basically as soon as you put them on.
It's just like, I know what I'm talking about. Physics lesson 101.
I need a pair.
Yeah. So these are the new Academy series, and they're basically, can we say that it's Taylor's new entry-level guitars, aren't they?
Sure.
So they've taken everything away that you don't really need in a guitar, and just replaced them with good old-fashioned tone and user-friendliness.
Yeah, I
say that.
I kind of, you know, when you look at most of the American manufacturers, they all struggle, I think, to have a really competitive option down at the lower end, because of course the labour costs of building the guitars. I mean, in fairness to Taylor and Martin, both of their sort of lower end lines come out of Mexico, don't they? Which is this sort of, I guess, in terms of labour costs, almost like a halfway house between mass production in China and the high end stuff that you get from the US.
Yeah.
But Academy series is, as Pete was saying, is really just about going kind of what don't we need in like the 100 series, and is there a way we can kind of get that down a bit lower? And I've got to say, hats off to Taylor. I think they've been so creative with their approach to manufacturing acoustic guitars. They've sort of thrown everything. Maybe a bit unfair to say everything. They've looked at all the traditional ways that you would make an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And they've gone, how can we do something so that the end result is still a very high quality acoustic guitar, but that we can improve how fast we can make them and the consistency within which they come out.
Yeah.
And I guess Academy series is almost the next level of, you know, what can we do to just drive all those costs down and take out all the time consuming unnecessary elements of making an acoustic guitar, so that something is as affordable as possible, to give I suppose ultimately first time guitar players the best possible chance of developing into.
Well, see, this is what I always say. I say it's so important when you do go and buy your first guitar, when you pick that up, that you feel like it inspires you to play it. Because otherwise, it'll be sitting in a corner. You buy 100 good guitar. There's so many, as we talked about before, there's so many good guitars out there, and they're getting better and better than what you get for your money from when we started out, when I started out, 35 million years ago. The guitars then weren't that good,
What was your first acoustic guitar?
Well, I had my mum's Oscatella, which was a nylon string guitar, and they do nylon strings, but that was sort of the first guitar that I kind of learned on. And that was
With a nylon though.
It was a nylon string guitar, yeah. But it was because that I think a lot of people might miss. They go, you need to start out. You start out on a nylon guitar, but what they forget about nylon guitars, they've got a really big fretboard, and it's not always really easy to get around on a nylon string guitar. So I think a lot of people get put off of those guitars by starting.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I still think that, when you look at the average kind of early teens, let's remember, all of us. I mean, I would say it's quite common at that age for anything that you get interested in to be a bit of a fad.
Yeah.
And I can completely understand why parents would want to go, do you know what? I'm not going to spend £500 on a guitar because for the first one, because
will you play it? You know,
will it be? And so of course the parent buys the £49 one or the £99 one.
Yeah.
And it's a minefield down there, isn't it? Of just of toy shops selling guitars that really shouldn't be called guitars, and
they
all
can't
that kind
tune
of
them up, and they're not. The
Yeah.
intonation is all wrong, and and that's what happens. It puts people off, and that's what I think.
Yeah.
That the Taylor's done an amazing job with these new guitars. They look great as well. It's not just a guitar. They've done little bits like this, like this little cutaway for the arm, which is they don't have to do that.
It's still tough. It's still tough, though, isn't it? Because I think
that's next to labour cost.
I think, in my opinion, if you go down into the sort of sub £100, sub £120 steel string market, then there's actually one or two okay nylon strings down there, but the steel strings are all pretty ropey down. Certainly once you're down into £60-70. Honestly, man, take it from me, the steel strings are ropey.
Yeah, and the neck is not. There's no truss rod in the neck, and it's all sharp threads, and it's all of that stuff
My problem with my first acoustic guitar, which was £60, and it actually was a reasonable brand name. It was an Aria, but I guess so £60 back then is. Maybe it's more equivalent to £150 now, something like that.
£3,000.
My biggest problem was I didn't understand guitar maintenance.
Yeah.
So after like 3 or 4 months, the neck on my guitar had kind of bowed forward.
Yeah.
So the action was like this up past the sort of 7th fret or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was lucky, obviously, that my dad owned a guitar store, and so I always had somebody to ask, and he was like, "Oh man, you really need to, but you need to just twist it, and then it'll come back, and it'll be fine." But so most people won't have someone in their family that's like a guitar technician.
No,
so they'll just be like,
changing strings is another thing. There's like people don't know what to put the strings on. Maybe they put nylon strings on a steel string, or they put a steel string on a nylon string.
That's even worse.
It's like putting diesel in your petrol car in a way. It just doesn't really work, and But
so I think what we're trying to say is that Taylor haven't made like a £99 guitar here, or even
and they won't do
even a 2 or 3. Yeah, I mean that level of mass production and those prices can only be achieved in
well, the Baby Taylor is about
Far East,
£299, isn't it, or £300 or something?
Yeah, but I'm talking down low at like the 150.
Yeah, no.
And I guess tons of you will still start on one of those guitars, and that's okay as long as you kind of know what you're doing and you understand a little bit about tiny weeny bit of guitar maintenance and stuff like that. But if, and I appreciate it's a big if you're fortunate enough to be shopping for your first guitar, or maybe you've had that first guitar and you're like 6 months in and you're thinking, I really like this, but I don't want to carry on my
I always say save up and wait.
I think these are pretty special. I think these are this range starts from about $450 and goes up to about $550.
And it comes with one of these bags, which is really cool. Nice bag.
So here's the important stuff. There are 2 sizes of steel string in the range.
10.
This is the 10, which they call a dreadnought.
Yeah,
but it's not, is it? It's like
slightly smaller, and they do. So Taylor has got this thing where they bow the back as well for more tone, and it really works. On the GS mini guitars, they got the same thing. The back is bowed, and for some reason that just makes the guitar sound better. It's a Sapele laminate back and side.
Yeah.
And then it's a spruce top.
Solid spruce.
Solid spruce top.
Yeah.
And it's 2 pieces as always. They put 2 pieces together. It's got, am I right saying ebony fingerboard?
Yes.
And mahogany or selected hardwood. Or is it, it could be...
It's probably Sapele again, isn't it?
So it's just a nice guitar. Everything... It's got electrics as well. There's not like when you skimp on stuff. It's not skimped on the way it's built, but you don't get bindings on it and all of these things. You don't get bling, as I call it. You don't get inlays. These are probably printed on there and stuff. So
yeah, I don't know whether, but this is what they call their 10 series, which is
I think it is inlays,
a 15/16. In other words, if you divided the size of a Dreadnought acoustic by 16 and then timesed it by 15. That's the size of this guitar. So we're talking, like this difference.
All the way around it.
But there is also, if you look on the model numbers and you see something called an Academy 12, that's the Grand Concert, which is smaller.
It's here now on the screen.
So that's more reminiscent of like a Martin Triple O.
Triple O Clapton sort of John Mayer
shape,
kind of
size.
shape. Yeah.
And that's not smaller for smaller people. That's just smaller for a different tone.
Yeah.
Although a lot of smaller people will find it more comfortable.
There's those 2 things. There's one is, when you have the arm, I'm not a tall guy. I'm about 5'9" or something, not 5'8" or whatever. And, the whole thing about having your arm up here when you're playing can be quite annoying. And that will put some people off a guitar like that. That's why the DS Mini, I think, is so popular because it's a much smaller...
For sure.
It sits much lower on your knee. And the 12 will do the same thing. Course.
So the guitar range is available. There are no cutaway options in the range. If you don't know what a cutaway is, that's when you see this piece of the guitar here kind of missing to give you higher fret access. So there's no cutaway models in this range as yet.
Left-handed?
But there are left-handed models.
Brilliant.
Yep, so everything's available left-handed and everything is available either with or without the electrics.
Yeah.
And there is also a nylon string. Also available as a non-electro, an electro, and a left-handed.
Amazing. That is just amazing. It's amazing that, what do you call it, broad spectrum of different guitars available for everybody.
They are, the nylon string is based on the 12 series, so it is the slightly smaller one. The nylon has a slightly different top to the steel string. It's a Lutz spruce top as opposed to Sitka spruce.
Lutz, is that the guy that grows them then? Is that the German guy that grows the spruce? Hans Lutz?
Yes. I have no idea. And the scale length on the nylon string is very slightly different as well. It's very slightly longer. This is just under 25 inches on the steel string, and it's 25.5 inches. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, that's the distance from the saddle to the nut. So these Academy series would be classed as full size, full normal scale length.
It seems to me like, not to compare, but it's a little bit like the Dreadnought Junior, isn't it? That Martin has come out with. It's very similar size to that.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know what whether the Dreadnought Junior, how much more compact. Yeah, probably is about.
I think
the same,
it's a similar sort of thing that
ratio,
they sort of just scale it down.
I do love. I mean, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
I must admit, I've only ever seen the armrest on the Taylor mega expensive, like the 900 series and the presentation series, and these are guitars that are £3,000 each.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was done purely for aesthetics, because they put on the expensive stuff, they put these incredible inlays and they usually use a little sliver of really exotic wood and it just looks,
yeah.
But they've done this now on such an affordable guitar, and because what they're basically saying is when you're just starting out, if you rest your arm kind of up here, it is a bit uncomfortable when there's a sharp ridge.
It's sharp.
And that takes that away.
I'll tell you if I play acoustic guitar a lot, when I've got a gig where I have to play acoustic guitar a lot, I get, for the first week or 2 weeks, I'll get literally a massive bruise here.
Really?
Because I'll hammer it really hard into a sharp edge. And, a Stratocaster has that as well. So it's not just for aesthetics.
You mean a Stratocaster has
that thing for your arm to rest on?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I mean it's not uncommon to hear players talk about the beating that this part of their arm gets.
Man, I tell you, I've been blue all the way down the arm here, but I would literally hammer it.
So what you're hearing is a combination here of these microphones here just picking up the acoustic sound. We're plugged into some little acoustic amps on the floor. Even the bass is going through just a normal acoustic amp.
Yep.
And
DI out into the door.
If you don't know what that means, essentially we're just taking an output direct from the acoustic amp rather than miking the acoustic amp up, and then it goes into our recording interface.
So we can hear what we're playing in here as well.
Yeah.
So there is a pickup in here. It's got a volume and it's got a tone. I'm running sort of the tone on 12. It's got a little cool tuner as well, which is nice. And it takes these little CR2.
Let me show you. You have to zoom in close on here. So the cool thing on the tuner is when I press the button in, it mutes the guitar. So if you are plugged into an amplifier, nothing comes out. And then all you do is you hit your string. That was my G string. So you see a little G comes up, and because I'm a tiny bit flat here, that red light is on. If I tighten the... Oh, went too far. We're looking for the green one in the middle. There we are. So really super simple to use. You don't have to press any other buttons or anything on the tuner to select the string. It's all intelligent, knows what you're doing.
And you know what? That's really cool to have that it mutes as well, because it saves you from... You know, you have a tuner pedal with you, or have to buy an extra pedal. That's another 50, 60, 70, 80 quid,
yeah.
Or thing on your one of those things. Anyway, let's hear some more.
Yes.
There's no pickup selections on this, so it's just coming straight out. But you've got the, which you pointed out as well, you've had the little pickup so you can adjust if the strings are not...
One of the things that Taylor upgraded on their pickups in the last 2 or 3 years was this idea that now there are these sort of sensitivity adjustments just behind the saddle here, so you can adjust how sensitive the pickup is at the sort of the bass end in the middle and at the treble, so you can kind of accent the tone to make it, you know, more bassy, less bassy, whatever you want to do. I suspect most people will never ever fiddle with those things, and they'll just leave it as it is.
Leave it. If it's not broken, don't
absolutely
try to fix it.
But it's there if you want it.
Let's hear some more. I'll do some strumming. I've got a nylon pick, a really sort of soft pick, just so you can...
I was going to join you there.
Actually, let me just mute.
Wrong note.
Let me mute it so you don't...
the jazz version.
Jazz. So let me mute this now. So what you're going to hear now is only the Neumann KM184 in the front. Just so what you heard then was this, right? So now you're going to hear the microphone. I'll play the same thing. Massive sustain as well. It keeps ringing. It's just a great guitar. And let me try to do some bluesy stuff. Just again, like. Let me try to put that on there, in there. And it's nicer for us to, when we're hearing it in here, because we can actually hear what it is. It's a much bigger sound, but the sound on its own is lovely.
What if you just finger pick?
Something like that.
Yeah, it sounds great. You might find again the bigger the guitar, so the dreadnoughts, actually do respond better to heavier strumming and being a bit more heavy-handed. You might be surprised at if you think, you know, stylistically you prefer to play that kind of softer finger picking stuff. You might actually find that the smaller bodied one actually is louder, as
for finger picking and stuff,
responds better to that.
Exactly. If you watch some of the videos I've done with Mick, where we are playing smaller bodied guitar, like the parlor guitars and stuff, they're a bit better for kind of bluesy and for thicker picks as well. And just for finger picking, sort of.
Doesn't the theory go something like that the bigger the top, the bigger the guitar, the more you've got to work to make it vibrate, and the smaller the guitar, the less you've got to do
it's something to do with strings and picks and everything. So Taylor uses the Alexia strings, of course, which are very, for me, they're very bright string. Yeah. So they'll last a long time. Yeah. But they'll be bright, and
it's another good thing, for a beginner.
Yeah,
the fact that all Taylor guitars come with Elixir strings. Now, Elixir are a real premium brand.
Absolutely.
They're, £15-20 for a set of Elixirs?
It's expensive.
But they're coated with, it's some offshoot of Gore-Tex, isn't it?
It's like wearing a rubber glove.
Yeah. So they're coated in this material that slows down the rate at which the sweat from your fingers can corrode the string. So typically speaking, you're probably going to get about 3 times as long out of a guitar with Elixir strings on it than you would out of a non-coated string.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're starting out, the less regularly that you have to restring your guitar, the better.
I've got a quick little tip for you here. When you do restring your guitar, if you 20 quid for a set of strings is a lot, we have to face it. So if you buy a cheaper set of strings, when you put them on, a lot of people you see, they'll pull the string like this, pull it all the way
to get the
to stretch out and set in tune.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Oh, I do that.
Yes, don't do that, because what you do is you got the core wire, and then you got the wound around the core wire, and what happens when you do that is that you're pulling it. So if you got the tightness of the wire here, when you pull it, it opens up all the wires around, and it allows for grease and fat and stuff to get in, right? So if you when you do pull your strings, and all it needs to really settle in the middle here, you just pull it here, down here, a little bit with your thumb, and then pull it up here a little bit with your thumb, because that's the bit here that needs to stretch.
Tips for pros here.
Because what happens
I didn't know that.
I
do this basically
when you do that, you stretch it all apart, and that's why Lexia, because they're coated, that even when you stretch them apart, it doesn't. It doesn't. But that's a top tip for you right there, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know why.
It works with electric strings and bass strings and everything. And then let them settle in, and then have another week or 2 weeks out of your strings.
Hopefully, throughout this here dandy video, our wonderful editor has been inserting clips of Pete and I jamming, so that you haven't had to listen to any of us for more than a minute or two before you see something more interesting. But the Academy series is due in the shops anytime sort of from spring 2017 onwards. Full specification, if that's your thing, will be, go and read the description below this video. You can find out more.
Great guitar, man.
It will still, I guess, compete with, on paper, a sort of a more blingy and potentially higher spec Far Eastern guitar.
Absolutely.
And that, I guess, is your choice really, as the player and the owner of your new guitar. What do you want? Do you want something where, I guess, what Taylor bring to the party is this, exceptional performance standards and understanding of how to make an acoustic guitar,
and everything is
meticulous attention to detail.
Yeah, they're all the same,
but relatively plain. Or you may decide to go to a Far Eastern manufacturer that probably produces, sort of in larger volumes, and has a cheaper labour force, not necessarily a worse labour force, just a cheaper labour force, and therefore they can afford to maybe load on a bit more bling and some extras. But I think it's important that that's a decision that each individual makes.
Try the guitar out. The guitar will speak to you. The guitar will speak to you. Anyway, feeling-wise, it feels lovely.
All I can say is that if somebody was to say to me, if you've got £400 or £500 to spend, would you say anything negative about Academy series?
No,
absolutely not.
And there's a few guitars in that price range. There's a few guitars in that price range, and if you look at all the top brands in that price bracket, none of them have got any of the bling on. But you can't.
Oh, you mean as in the American? Because if you went,
no, just I'm talking about like Taylor and Martin and Faith. All the if you are talking that amount of money, 450, 500 pounds, there is definitely guitars in that range, but you'll have to try them out because the one that, it's the
You'll
one that
definitely get more bling if you want to go
Epiphone,
Yamaha,
instance, or
Epiphone, whatever.
All of those things.
Anyway. So, the GS Mini is like a miniature size 6-string steel guitar that Taylor introduced into the range a few years back now. And they have sold thousands and thousands.
Absolutely.
And it's broken really this idea that miniature guitars are either for travel or for kids, but they're not proper guitars. And it's kind of like that myth is gone.
Yeah.
And the GS Mini is just a wicked guitar that is just smaller.
Yeah.
End of.
Yeah, they've really hit on that, haven't they?
So, yeah, and all the other brands have copied them and whatever. Still, GS Mini's still top of the pile in terms of all those kind of guys. Anyway, so now bass players get something. And the challenge, I guess, for producing a bass in a compact version here is the difficulty with acoustic basses. And again, if you go and watch the All About the Bass series that we do on Andertons TV, we did an acoustic bass sort of shootout. And my problem with acoustic basses is really, what are they for? They're so quiet. They're not like you can't bang it and make a big noise. So they just end up being this really weird niche category that I don't really know who it appeals to. So I guess the challenge for the GS Mini was how do you get that kind of volume when you've got a much shorter scale? So there's nothing like the tension in the strings that they would be on a full-size bass. The body's small, it's like, and yet they've done it. I mean, it's just got.
Those are specially designed strings for that bass as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think the technology that's gone into the strings is almost as interesting as what's gone into the guitar. The bass itself is, spruce top, solid spruce top, laminate sapele back and sides, same tuner that you've got on the Academy series.
It looks like a GS Mini guitar, doesn't it?
Really, from that perspective, it's just a GS Mini. The tuners are obviously larger to encompass the thicker bass strings.
Yeah.
The pins, they've got these weird double prong, well not weird, but they've got these like double pronged end pins to sort of keep the strings in. I want to tell you what the scale length is. It's 23 and something here, 23 and a half inches.
Yeah. That reminds me.
Yeah, in your dreams. So, hang on, let's have a slurp of lukewarm coffee. So, of course, you couldn't put normal bass strings on this and get it to sound as good as it does. So these guys, Taylor, have worked with D'Addario to take a set of nylon bass strings and then wind them in the bronze, I don't know if it's phosphor bronze or just normal bronze, whatever, but essentially it's wound around nylon rather than wound around steel.
Those it looked like plastic strings you see in some basses. So
do you remember the old Ashbury basses?
Yeah, the little.
Yeah, so you get short scale Ashbury basses back from the 70s or whatever, and they had a really distinctive rubber bandy kind of sound.
And almost rubber strings on it, and you're like that.
And there's definitely, in terms of a feeling thing, there's kind of like a similarity there, albeit that, you know, these are round wound strings, so you know.
So you get the not flat wound.
They feel more like normal bass strings, and. No, I'm not a bass player. Now you're just hearing that straight through the microphone here and again, I'm going to probably resort to using a plectrum just because I'm not a fingerstyle. I love the shorter scale length because I don't, you know, when I'm playing normal bass as a guitar player that picks up a bass from time to time, I love the fact that the low notes are all down here and not down here.
Basses are so long, aren't they?
I love the fact that it's got a slightly looser feel to it. So vibrato is nice. There is always going to be, and I think it's really apparent in the official Taylor video that they did with the guy that designed these, Andy Powers. There's quite a lot of fret buzz, which actually we're not getting so much on this model, but can you hear that?
Yeah, but when you whack it hard, you know, but I don't think you'll hear that kind of.
You probably won't hear it in a mix, and you won't hear it through an amp. But and I think the reason I'm pointing that out there is I wouldn't want anybody to buy one of these and then keep taking it back to the shop going, oh, it's buzzing. You know, it's a short scale bass guitar.
There will be,
you know, there's a lot of physical movement in the string when it's doing that. It's just going to have a little bit of buzz. I think you just got to go. It is what it is. I think it sounds great. So with a pick. Great. I mean, it's just a lot of fun to play.
That's what I thought. That's why I want one, because it's fun.
Through the amplifier. Now we ummed and ahed about should we get a bass amp in or should we get an acoustic amp in.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, nobody makes an acoustic bass amp. That would be niche, wouldn't it? So we just went for a regular acoustic guitar amp because I think it's going to retain that acousticness.
Acousticness.
Such a bad bass player. I can only apologise. Got a tone control on here, so all I want to do is play guitar licks on a bass, which is bad.
All I want to do is have some fun.
It'll just annoy the bass players. So look, this is the GS Mini. So it's a really, really cool addition to the GS Mini family, the GS Mini bass. It's similar kind of dough. I think it's a little bit dearer than the regular GS Minis, but again, if you follow the link in the description below this video, you can find out pricing here. It does come with a wonderful padded,
which is really cool bag. Because I noticed that opens up all the way. You zip it all the way around the back. It was really cool, man. You know, I like little details. Can I try?
Of course you can.
That's really cool, man. That's really good. Pick. Guitar player playing bass licks. That's what, isn't it?
You've got quite a bit of reverb on that, which sort of suits the guitar, but maybe less so the bass. This just sounds great.
I love this thing. I absolutely love this thing. I think it's.
I wonder who will buy
idea.
more. I wonder if guitar players will buy more or bass players will buy more.
I think this will just appeal to everyone. And like, I would love to have one of these because you can see if you have at home, you just want to plug a bass in to record.
Yeah.
You can it's if you thumb it.
Who's your favourite bass player in the world?
Pino Palladino.
Yeah.
I think because he's just the way he plays bass. For me, he's the grooviest MF ever. He's just got that bottom end, you know. And Rocco, his son, has just got. It's just the same.
Is it genetic? Do you think?
There's just something going.
Did we have Rocco in for a session?
We did, yeah. Check it out with Ben
Luke.
Jones.
Oh, Ben Jones. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Check him out, man. He's just sitting in the corner there, grooving away.
Away.
Yeah, but Pino's just so cool, you know. What is it? You know, there's loads of great bass players out there, Mark King, and there's loads. There's loads. You.
Did you mean Nathan King?
Nathan King. Sorry, yeah.
No, it's cool. Well, look. There you go. So, look. Sorry if this has been a slightly extended video, but I hope you've enjoyed. A little bit of banter with me and Pete on Acoustic Paradiso on Andertons TV.
Slap on the bass!
Can you do all that stuff then? Anyway, look, whatever. So...
it's a lot of things you don't know about me. And a lot of things you don't want to know about me.
Yeah, exactly. You can find them on the dark web, probably. www.dirtybastardfromdaniland. Whatever it is.
Darkpeak.com.
Right,
anyway...
then.
Academy Series, the 10E, wasn't it?
This was the 10E, but yeah, it's just going.
Come and try them out, man. It's a great guitar.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be
well done, Taylor.
It's going to be a big one.
Well done, Taylor. Not Taylor behind the camera, although well done to him too. If you've enjoyed the way this video's looked and the camera panning, that's a different Taylor. But well done, Taylor Guitars.
It's so cool, isn't it? So we jam out then.
Sure, but only if I can play the bass. Well, no, I don't mind.
You can play the bass.